Hi, how are you doing? I wish we were actually face to face so I could hear your answer to that question, but I genuinely hope that you are doing well and that you've had a great week. For me, it is Friday afternoon as I'm recording this, and I am really looking forward to the weekend. I'm looking forward to our church gathering. I'm looking forward to a little downtime. I'm looking forward to reading some books, some of which I have here in my stack to share with you. I'm really amazed. I'm looking out the window and I can see that the wind is blowing from the north, which is always wonderful when you live in Texas and it is June. It's 85 degrees outside on a Friday afternoon in the month of June, and that is a miracle if ever there was one. Thank you, God, for our good weather this afternoon. 85 degrees might sound like a boiling heat wave to you depending on where you live, but for me, 85 degrees is perfect. And that's the kind of weekend mine is starting out to be. Anyhow, I've been thinking today about a couple of things. The first thing is often on my mind, and maybe it's on your mind too. And this is the question: what is happening? do you ever think that? What in the world? What is going on? Why is the world like it is? I often think that, or I often wonder that. And the second thing I am pondering today is what makes a person who they are. So all kinds of things for sure, like where you were born, when you were born, what kind of family you were born into, the belief system of that family, and your own belief system, what you read, what you think about, what you do, the experiences that you have. So many things work together to make me, and you, right? So I'll start out by the thought progression I was having earlier this week was I'm 54 years old, and I'm just now beginning to realize kind of who I am. Who does God say that I am? Beyond just beloved daughter. Like he actually put some things in me that make me me, and the experiences that I've had in my life contribute to who I'm becoming. So for example, I've recognized that I have always loved to be a part of helping people get started with things. So even way back when I was a teenager, and then, even beyond that, like helping people learn how to swim. I was a swimmer, and I love that. I've always loved, I've loved doing swim lessons. I loved being a coach on a little summer team here and there throughout my years. I love helping people get started. I love motherhood. Like that is the greatest thing, to be able to watch little ones just grow and become who God made them to be. So certainly motherhood, and now grandmotherhood, very different seat on the bus in this role, but still being able to be a part of kind of informing and helping a life. So those two things have been a big part. I was an elementary school teacher. I love that. I adore helping kids. They're so awesome and so much fun, and that is such a pleasant job. I student taught in first grade, and they were very little. So God bless all of the people that teach kindergarten and first grade. The little ones, that's a lot of work. It's like your mama to or daddy, excuse me, not to eliminate the men from the teaching picture, but you're really helping some very little people. So I never did a full-time teach those grades, but I did teach 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and that's pretty perfect. I love that age group. They are so full of wonder. They still really like you as their teacher. They are delightful. Like what a fun way to spend the day hanging out with a bunch of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds. I really enjoyed it. So that's a part of who I am. My husband and I had a wonderful long time of working with university students, and I loved that. I loved that age group of person is, stepping into adulthood. They're 18 years old, wide-eyed, coming into what does it mean to be an adult, and they are all exiting, or I should say getting on a different path, leaving whatever worldview, and it's everything you can imagine, every worldview you can imagine that college students today are being raised in, and they come and land at university, and watching people find their faith is just one of the greatest, here's Maggie, one of the greatest joys that anyone can ever have. And so having been a part of that for such a long time, 30 years of my life, really informed the kind of writing that I do. So it informed my blog, which I have, and if you haven't heard of that, let me tell you, it's at my name, marygautreau.com. My blog is called One Generation to Another, and that is absolutely informed by the way that God made me to be a person that loves helping people get started. I love giving feet to somebody's faith. So the devotional books that I've written are that. They're written to kind of help someone get started on a journey, and that is my sweet spot. That's what I enjoy so much. So let me just tell you about this book. As I dive into my stack of books here, this endeavor, which is the first of a series, Friday Night in the Frio River, is the first book in the Booksellers series. And here's a wonderful announcement that the second book is coming out very soon this summer. And I will tell you about it just as soon as I can. But this whole series is about a couple of teenage girls, which, I was a teenage girl, and I had a sister, and she was a teenage girl at one point, and I've got 2 daughters, and at one time they were teenage girls, so I know a little bit about being a teenage girl. But these sisters in this story, the whole series is going to be sort of a spiritual awakening. They're just regular, Christian kids doing their thing, living their best life. And then they have their eyes opened that, oh, the world is really different than they thought. And the adventures ensue. So if you haven't read this book, please do. I would love your help in kind of getting a little momentum going before the new book comes out in just, a handful of weeks now. So if you haven't read it, please do. The cheapest way is to get it on the Amazon Kindle version. You can get it right away and start reading it right now, and join me in the adventure. But even what I write has been so informed by all of my past experiences. One of the things that I write about in that book, one of the things that the girls learn is that what you read really informs who you become. Like, that's going to be the major theme throughout the whole series. What you read truly informs who you become. And so that's why I always have a stack of books with me. And that's why I'm, as often as I can, encouraging everyone, though we are interfacing right now on a device, a phone or an iPad, whatever you're holding, I want to encourage you and those you love and influence. Let's not let this be the only thing that we read, right? There's so much out there. What we read really informs who we become. So I will bridge that well, I guess that was my second thought, really. What makes us who we are? And a huge part of that is what we read, what we ingest, what we let go past our eyes into our brains and into our hearts. That becomes so much what we think about all the time. Like, just honestly, how much news are you reading? And that I I am not saying which side of the news are you reading. I just mean how much of it are you ingesting? Because the whole model is trying to make you click their thing again and come back to it again to see if there's any update. It's sort of a monster that I don't know that anybody actually meant for it to be this way, but it has evolved into this thing that is making us all so anxious, isn't it? So don't let that be the only thing you read, because it very much informs who you become, even now, no matter how old you are. If you're reading lots of anxious thoughts, unstable things, it's going to make you feel anxious and unstable. So I encourage you to read some things that do not make you anxious, that do not make you worried, that do not make you I'm not saying we shouldn't read real things. We should. We shouldn't, have our head too much in the clouds, although a little bit of that is not so bad. But just being aware that what we read really informs who we become, even now. So I would like to transition now that I've sort of babbled about that for a few minutes. And, well, let me not transition before I ask who are you and who are you becoming? What things have influenced who you've become? You probably actually can't answer that very quickly, but I encourage you to do what God has sort of led me through this season. I'm just thinking back on what are my experiences? What are the threads that sort of weave together to who I actually am, or who God says that I am. That's a fun thing to think about and to pray about. Well, let me transition now to the first question that I was pondering, and that is, what in the world is going on? So I have some fun books that I would like to share to sort of tell you what I've been thinking about. The first one is aptly named What's Wrong with the World? And this is G.K. Chesterton. Chesterton is not for everyone. It is very difficult to pick. Oh, you know what? Have you watched that Father Brown series? Because you may not have known that you were experiencing Chesterton, but you were. The one that's got the Harry Potter dad as Father Brown. That's pretty good. I've watched a few of them, and they're not exactly super true to his character of Father Brown, so I encourage you to get the short stories and read them. They're really excellent, written by this man, Chesterton. He's wordy and really difficult if you've never experienced him before. What I always tell my friends, that because they know I love Chesterton, and they open a book and you'll see what I mean. He's very wordy. So if you would like to start reading Chesterton, I encourage you to read a lot of C.S. Lewis and get your mind thinking, early to mid 20th century British man speaking in your head, and then try Chesterton, and I think you will find it easier to be able to hang with him. But I love this book is particularly great right now because guess what? It was written 116 years ago. So when you ask the question, what is wrong with the world? This man's perspective from 116 years ago is amazing, because all of the things that we are dealing with now were way nascent stages back then. And he was very prophetic, honestly, about a lot of the things that he says. So it helps you understand what's happening now when you read things that were written then. But one of I wanted to mention this book because he wrote this after I think, so if this was in 1910, sometime before this, he was posed the question by, I think, a newspaper, like one of the big London papers. I'm not sure which paper, so don't quote me on this, but one of the newspapers asked quite a few very influential authors this question: what is wrong with the world? And Chesterton, in his famous Chestertonian way, this is a paraphrase of what he wrote, but it's pretty accurate. Dear Sir, I am sincerely yours, GKC. Like, what's wrong with the world? I am. And I love his frame of mind. He has the most wonderful worldview of God is very, very good, and we were in need of saving, and he saved us. So let's rejoice. That's pretty much the tenor of everything that he wrote. And I agree with him very much. This is a great book. Anything he writes is great, but remember my advice about C.S. Lewis first. Okay, here's another thing helping me answer the question of what is wrong? What's going on? This is not so much necessarily just this book, because it's a fatty. And if you are not a history person, this might be a little intimidating and make you kind of want to fall over dead thinking about reading this giant book about history. But I love history, and this is just an example. This man, Paul Johnson, is a fantastic historian and writer. I don't think that all fantastic historians are necessarily great writers, but he is both. And a good friend of mine who will know who I am talking about, because I think he might hear this at some point, told me about Paul Johnson. And so I thank you very much for that. You know who you are. But this book is really so good. I read it years ago, and I have picked it back up to read it again. And would you like to understand what's going on? This will help you. Things like this. Just reading about history, I love to know what has gone on before, because it helps me understand what is going on now. Okay, another book that I would like to recommend, or just tell you about. I don't know that I'm necessarily recommending them. Maggie, what's wrong? Come here. She's troubled. Sorry, we're elderly around here. She's troubled. So let me tell you about this book. This person is Dorothy Sayers, and I've mentioned her before. But this one in particular, I have picked up and am rereading. It's a novel, and it is about her detective, whose name is Lord Peter Wimsey. And let me tell you where I learned about her. I took a class at our very small private school when I was in college. I was a freshman, and there were not even 2,500 undergraduates at our school. So my later experience as a junior and senior was at a big state school where they just sort of throw you into a classroom and good luck to you. But this was a sort of fancy pants private school. I was an athlete, and just really blessed to be there. But it was in a classroom of about 25 of us, I think. Such great professor to student ratio at that smaller school. And it was about basically English literature between the years of 1920 and 1930, the kind of interwar years. And it was so awesome. And I hadn't heard of so many of the people before then, but this lady is one I heard about then. And wow, I think if she's not my favorite author, she's for sure in the top 5, maybe top 3. But this book is fascinating. Murder Must Advertise. It's so good. Also, not a quick read. She's very brilliant. And she wrote this. It's her detective goes into an advertising agency, and you find out he's there on assignment. But he's pretending to be an advertiser, and she writes brilliantly about this because she was in advertising. And in fact, if you've ever gone into a restaurant that has a bar area where they have the Guinness beer sign that is a toucan, a bird with a colorful nose, she is the person that did that advertising campaign 100-something years ago, and it's still used today. Brilliant. But this one is great because she actually came out of her experience of advertising, being in advertising, with just scathing thoughts about the whole industry, because it was new back then. If this book is set in the 20s and written not, I think she wrote it, well, I should look, but the words are so tiny, when it was actually published the first time. I think it says 1933, but the words are so tiny I can't see it. But anyhow, so there was, like, what advertising was there in the 20s and 30s? There were newspapers, think like the sides of a bus as it's driving by, maybe some periodicals, magazines, but there wasn't this thing that just all day and night, like, is it listening to us? I think it is. And it gives you what you want to see. Like, advertising now is actually sort of terrifying, and she has some pretty scathing things to say about the whole industry. So back to my question, what is going on in the world? This is a very fun fictional read about the advertising culture that we live in. It's actually about a murder mystery, but it's set with the whole, it's examining what is advertising culture doing to us 100 years ago. And I think it helps me understand, oh, that's what's wrong with the world. And then the last book that I'll tell you about that I read really recently, it's a new book, lest you think I never read anything new. I actually read a lot of new things all the time. This one is so good. Have you heard of it? It's called Theo of Golden. And this guy, Alan Levi, I read about him because I'd never heard of him. And a friend of ours sent us this book. And I think everybody should read it. I don't think anyone has written anything like this in decades. It's that good. And I read up on him. Who are you? Who are you, Alan Levi? And I think he was a lawyer. And this is his first book. And he self-published it, and it sold so many copies that it got picked up by whatever publishing house it is. But it's that good. It should have gotten picked up because it's excellent. I encourage you to read it. And it ties into my question that I've been asking. What's going on? And I won't spoil this one for you because I hope you'll read it. It is so good. It's about a kind of mysterious person that we don't know what his story is for a really long time, that just sees people and listens to them and affirms them and wants to hear their story. So here I go, wrapping this up by tying my two things together with a book recommendation, Theo of Golden. Please read it. It's very encouraging, very inspiring, and it wraps the two things together. Who are we? Are we becoming who God really wanted us, intended us, dreamed for us to be? Are we recognizing all of the wonderful experiences that weave together to make us, to make you, and to make me? I'm only just now realizing, oh, I've always loved to be a part of getting people started. What are you realizing that you've always loved to be a part of? And I imagine you're going to find, as you bring it before the Lord, that is a big piece of who He imprinted you to be. What gift you are to the world right now. Isn't that amazing? God wanted you to be alive right now. And He imprinted you with those wonderful gifts that He imprinted you with, that you can share with all of the people that you're around all the time, your family, your friends, your coworkers, the people at school with you, whatever it is. What makes you you? And then the other question, what's happening? And this book ties both of those things together so beautifully, because this fellow, he's kind of a stranger to town, and he just sees people like that everybody else just walks right past, or that nobody has the time to really listen to each other. He sees them and he listens to people's stories. And he finds out that, everybody has a story. This is true, isn't it? Everybody has a story. And it's just amazing to take the time to listen. So anyhow, that's a lot of rambling. I've given you some good books to read. I've given you a couple of questions to think about and ponder. And I hope that you will. I hope that you remember, I'll tell you if you don't remember, God loves you. And you're not an accident. You're not just a happenstance of an accident of nature. That's not true. You are purposefully, lovingly made by a good Father. So I just want to encourage you today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you're like me and it's Friday afternoon, I hope you have a great weekend. And I'll see you next time.